Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Roo Hammer.
G'day, mate. How's things?
Good mate, how are you?
Yeah, had better days. A lot of rain up here.
Videos back.
Videos back. Yeah, bucketing down with rain up here. So had a few issues with the old ceiling, that kind of thing. But you get that, don't you, with this kind of weather? What about you?
Yeah, mate. I've had a relatively difficult week. Had one of my good schoolmates pass away in a tragic work accident the other day. So it's kind of been playing havoc on my mind the last couple of days. So, being on here live with you tonight, mate, kind of takes my mind off that. And, I'm sure our special guest will make me smile quite a bit as well.
Yeah, that's it. Well, let's bring him on, shall we?
We will, mate. Thanks everyone for joining us. So tonight we've got obviously a very special episode of Roo Hammer. Our very special guest tonight played 247 NRL games over a 10-year career, representing our beloved Warriors in 75 games in his 3 seasons at the club. He's won 2 premierships, represented New South Wales and Australia. But to us, he will always be Warrior number 156. Welcome, Jimmy Maloney.
G'day, guys. How are you?
Yeah,
Good,
we're
mate.
doing good, thanks, mate. How are you enjoying life in France there, Jimmy?
Yeah, mate, really enjoying it. A little bit over all the restrictions and that are going on with all the COVID stuff. It's sort of been dragging on now, and I think everyone over here is just waiting for it to move on and the world to get on how it was. So that's a little bit frustrating, but, we kick off the Super League season this week, so excited to get back into some footy.
Yeah. Awesome. So we'll go back to the very start. So tell us a bit about your rugby league journey. Now, you were born in Orange in country New South Wales. So how'd you get into rugby league and who were your junior clubs?
Yeah, I started playing. I was born out Orange, grew up there. We left there when I was 10 years old. Started playing out there with SJS at under 8s. Mum wouldn't let me play football until I was 8. I used to have to play soccer, but Dad played bush footy and all that, and from all reports was a pretty handy bush footballer. So he coached me in under 8s, 9s, 10s, sort of out there as we were coming through, and then we moved to the Central Coast and basically grew up there for the rest of it. I played with St Edwards and Arimba up there, and and then headed down to Sydney after that. I went to North Sydney Bears at the start, and sort of went on through there through Parramatta and Melbourne, and then over to the Warriors.
Yeah, I was going to say you played with the Arimba Magpies, also the mighty North Sydney Bears. How did you come to sign with Para for the 2007 season?
I was just playing up the Central Coast. I was playing in the under-19s with Arimba and got pulled up. At the time, they were playing in the Jim Beam Cup. They had 4 Central Coast sides playing in that Jim Beam Cup with the Sydney sides, and I got pulled up when I was in year 12 playing in that. And then the next year that was under 20, so that was Jersey Flag then, I think. And me and about 5 mates went down to the North Sydney Bears Open trials, and we pretty much all managed to get picked up. So we had a really, really fun year up there. It was full on, I was working as an apprentice carpenter, working all day. Then we'd all carpool down for training in the afternoon and played the year. And I spent the first half of the year in the under-20s, and then got pulled up to the Premier League with North Sydney Bears. And Greg Florimo actually pulled me in and said to me, do I have a football manager? And I said, no, mate. Like, I was just a kid. I never knew anything about managers and what all that was. And he just sort of said, he goes, mate, I think it'd be a good idea to, if you got one, and got in touch with Wayne Beavis and hooked up with him. And then he basically got me the deal out Parramatta. I think I was more a bit of a favour at that point in time. I think he had a few blokes that were high profile, and he sort of just said, look, can you give this kid a crack? And I think my first contract out there was about $12,500 a year, and went out there and progressed on from there.
Yeah, well, that was going to be my next question. So you were contracted to Parramatta and you helped Wentworthville win the New South Wales Cup competition. And in 2008, you were selected in the New South Wales Cup Team of the Year, but you were stuck behind guys like Tim Smith, Brett Finch, the Keating brothers, and part-time half Felitti Mateo. So you signed with Melbourne for the 2009 season. Was that just looking for an opportunity?
Yeah, it was. I sort of went through. So I had 2007, my first year. I was playing and I did my ankle. I need the full op syndesmosis and the whole works, which pretty much ruled me out for the year. And then, 2008 sat there. We had a really successful year with Wentworthville, and I think I ended up one game I was on standby. Brett Finch was playing country, and if he didn't back up, I would have played and debuted. But then he was okay and backed up, and I just sort of felt like I was sort of sitting there. Felt like there was nothing more I could do in reserve grade. I was just sort of waiting for an opportunity, and got a call from Craig Bellamy. Obviously, at that time, that was when they had Greg Inglis playing in at 5'8", because they didn't really have another specialist sort of 5'8". So signed for that opportunity, and that worked out really good. Debuted, I think it was about round 5, but then 2 weeks later, Brett Finch fell out at Parramatta and come down there, and I stuck behind him again.
Stitch up.
Yeah.
We've all heard the stories about how tough a pre-season under Craig Bellamy can be, and are they as brutal and as punishing as people say?
Yeah, they are. I think me and my roommates used to come home after days and just go, you know what, let's just work 9 to 5 for the rest of our lives. It's easier than what this is all about. So it definitely was. I think it's just a shock. I think that's no secret. That's why Melbourne, they are so fit and so mentally strong, because they go through such enduring pre-seasons, and it was really good for me. I learned so much just in that 12 months, and I think in terms of a pre-season, everywhere I went after that, didn't matter what they threw at me. I just knew, I was like, whatever you throw at me, I'm going to have done worse. So I think mentally it puts you in a pretty good headspace to deal with anything after that.
Yeah, so you made your first grade debut round 5 against Penrith. So how did that come about, and what do you remember about your first grade debut?
Yeah, I just remember Bellyache call me into his office or whatever, and he said, "Do you reckon you're ready for first grade?" I said, "Yeah." I was pretty confident. I said, "Yeah, I suppose I reckon I am." And I remember him saying, look, you're going to be going this weekend. You'll be starting." That was pretty special, because that was 2009, and just at the start of 2009, my old boy had passed away, and he actually played footy with and against Bellyache out.
Okay.
Cool.
I think Bellyache was at Oberon at the time. Dad played a bit of time out at Orange Sims and stuff like that, and I think they played together in the rep side out there and that. So Bellyache knew my dad, so that was quite cool. And I remember him presenting me my jersey, which was really special. And look, Melbourne were really good. I remember they flew. They used to fly anyone who was debuting. They'd fly your mum and dad's down and that, and put them up and make sure they enjoyed the weekend and that. So yeah, it was a really special time, and we had a win and beat Penrith, and yeah, it was awesome.
You signed with the Warriors for the 2010 season on a 3-year deal. How did that come about? And was it true that you told your manager that you'd play anywhere except Canberra and New Zealand?
Yeah, I had. It was funny. I was sort of obviously when Finchy come down there, and then I was stuck again. Just waiting for opportunities behind guys, and so my manager sort of went went looking about, and he called me and he said, mate, I've got you a gig at the Warriors. I said, mate, keep looking. And I think it was only because at the time I'd only gone over there to play, reserve grade for the day. You flew into the day. A lot of the time they didn't necessarily play at Mount Smart. They played in another. Can't even remember the town where it was, but played down there. You just stayed in this crummy little hotel. You just flew there, flew out, went back, and as it would turn out, most of the times it was wet and rain, and every time you flew over there, I was like, this joint's a hole. I'm not going there. But he sort of just said to me, he said, look, mate, it'll be full-time first grade. It's what you need. And looking back, it was the best thing that we ever did. It was a big move. We loved our time in New Zealand, spent 3 years there. It was actually a period when we thought, was it 2011? In the lead up to 2011, we started looking at re-signing there, and we're going to look at buying a house and looking to stay long term. And then, things went a different way. The club sort of needed to sort out some other guys before they could do my deal. And in the meantime, we had that really, really good run to the grand final, and there were just a lot of options popped up back home. We just had our second bub, and we've been away from family, and just become a bit more convenient to go home from there. But it was great times in New Zealand. We all enjoyed it.
Yeah, we'll wind the clock back to round 1, 2010, where you made your Warriors debut on the Gold Coast. I was at that game. And so what were your memories of your Warriors first grade debut?
Oh, this attests me. The Warriors first game. Well, now I know it was at the Gold Coast. So, I can't even. I can't remember whether we won or lost.
We lost right at the end.
Yeah, you lost.
Yeah, right. I know just from history that we would have had a damn good turnout on the Gold Coast, because it used to be like a home game.
Yeah.
Whenever we'd play on the Gold Coast.
It was fantastic. We just got done by a Preston Campbell late
14-12, wasn't it?
Try.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So it was 18 all, 24-18 we went down. Yeah.
I remember the semi-final at the end of that year when we got beat against the Gold Coast and knocked out. I remember that game. But I didn't remember that first one.
Not too many memories of the first one. Okay.
Your first home game at Mount Smart Stadium was the round 2 win against Cronulla. Do you remember that game? And what was it like playing your first game on home soil in New Zealand in front of a Mount Smart crowd?
Yeah, I used to love Mount Smart. That was when we'd come out the tunnel too. I remember going
awesome.
Down there. That was always an event. Mate, it was such a cool atmosphere. We go over there. The fans were always so passionate and so loud. And I used to love going up the tunnel to the second field, warming up, and then coming down with the drums and the fire and coming out that corner in the tunnel. There were a lot of. I'll never forget that feeling, because I did really enjoy that. I thought that was such a cool way. I don't think they do it anymore. We missed that. We stopped doing it, I think, towards the end of when I was there. But it was a good way to come into the ground. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, the real Warriors experience. Now let me test you again, mate. Do you remember your third game for the club? I think you may remember this one because it was at Suncorp Stadium against the Broncos. Another game that I was at, and another great Warriors turnout. You scored your first points for the Warriors. In fact, you scored 3 tries and kicked 8 goals for a record equaling 28-point haul. Now, you must remember that game.
Yes, I do. I remember parts of that game, Yeah, it was good because I think I scored the last one right. It was not long to go, and it was like chip and chase. I thought, we'll just have a crack and chip and chase and then kick the head and got the last one. So, I did. Yeah, I did remember that one. That was good. I think we played against Darren Lockyer that day. Lockyer was still playing, I think. So, yeah, that was a good game. Obviously, a very good win. You don't get to have games like that and victories like that against the Broncos side very often.
No.
So,
Yeah, that's right.
it was a thoroughly enjoyable one.
You were saying before that we finished the regular season in 5th spot, faced the Titans in that semi-final on the Friday night, where we were beaten 28-16, bundled out of the semis due to that ridiculous McIntyre system. I think because the Roosters beat the Tigers in that epic game that they played.
The Nasta field goal one. I remember being back.
That's right. And then Skiddy scored that try.
Yeah, we thought we were through because 30 seconds to go and we needed Tigers to win, and they just got a scrum feed with the ball, and then they packed the scrum and the ball sat at lock, and then somehow a back rower from the Roosters grabbed it from lock of the Tigers. So I don't know, it was a shambles, but then they kicked it. Yeah. It was a crazy time.
And also Canberra beat Penrith in the second game that night, which was the one that knocked us out completely.
I think from memory, Canberra were on a run. I think they were on a pretty hot run.
Yeah.
And they were probably the side if one was going to knock someone off. I think that was that. I think that was the year that Penrith they were scoring a lot of tries from their like bombs and at the end of their sets and all that in Canberra. But yeah, it was a strange system because you went into limbo. We were sitting 5th, and then even the next year we finished 6th and lost the first one. We got pumped at Brisbane. I think it was in Brisbane.
Yeah, it was.
And then survived and made the grand final. So it was a strange old system, because you're at home going, well, is our season over? Do we get on the beers with the boys? Or so you sort of have a drink. Oh, stop, put the drink away. We might be playing.
Where were you when you were watching? Because the semi-final that you played, was at the Gold Coast, wasn't it? On the Friday night.
I think we were back home by then. And I remember boys on WhatsApp or messaging going, like everyone obviously at the gate at home and that, and going, oh, we're sweet when no, we're not sweet. Like we're going on. So
death row.
There's a bit of a shambles.
Yeah. Well, we'll get to 2011. So the season started horribly with 3 straight losses, but then the team rallied and we won 7 of the next 8 games to set ourselves up for a strong finish to the season. So what was the change in 2011 following those first 3 losses? Was it an attitude or a different style of play was adopted?
I don't know. To be fair, I didn't even realise we lost 3 at the start.
Ask us, mate. We'll tell you everything. We've got all the stats.
You know more about it than me. I got the worst memory in the world. I don't remember. I know we I remember getting 2010 was a decent season. We were sort of competitive without being, clearly some of the top sides, and I think there was a little bit to work on and that, but I think we were sort of getting there. We'd worked out our sort of style of play that suited us. I think through 2011, that we had periods there. Kevy Lock was in awesome form at fullback there. I remember our forward pack being really strong, and that's how we used to have our game based around. We had a really strong forward pack. We had, Lance O'Hire and guys like this, Aaron Eremaya, guys that were really good. Louis Brown in at hooker, guys that were really good at playing on momentum and playing through the middle of the field. And I think we just sort of found our groove of what sort of worked for us and what our style of football was.
There was a young kid by the name of Sean Johnson who made his debut in round 13 that season. What do you remember thinking when he came into first grade, and what was it like playing alongside him effectively as the senior halves partner when in actual fact you'd only played 40 games of first grade yourself at that time?
Yeah, I remember that. I think it was Fred Seymour busted his hand or something like that, or something happened, and Shawnee got his start. I remember obviously from the moment I got over there that there was always this buzz on this young Sean Johnson coming through, and I'd watch him in the 20s before us, the year before, and things like that. So it was quite clear he was always going to be a talented kid coming through, and I think it was pretty comfortable. I suppose obviously still not having played that many games myself, I was still pretty comfortable by that time with the side and steering people around the park and pushing blokes where they had to go. So I think for me, it was just about making sure, as him coming through as a young kid, that he could just do his game and worry about himself, that he didn't have the pressure of anything else, just sort out his game and enjoy it. And I can sort of take some pressure off and do the rest. So it was good. Obviously, he developed throughout that year, got more opportunities at the end. Obviously, set up that wicked try to get us against Melbourne, where he turned Kevin Proctor and Cooper Cronk in circles, and Louis Brown went over. So there's lots of good memories.
Yeah, well, I think Shawnee's introduction to the team coincided with us going on a bit of a run in 2011. I'll tell you a bit more about the Warriors as well. I'll remind you again about the 2011 season. So 9 out of the final 13 games to qualify. So you kind of answered this before, but did you feel you went into the first game against Brisbane? I remember at the time we were fairly confident of getting a win, and we obviously got pumped that night. But were you did you have sort of nightmares about the final system from last year that dudded us?
Yeah, I suppose at the time, I can't remember a whole lot about the Brisbane game. I remember it being, a massive loss, like complete hammering. I can't remember exactly the things of the game or why it went wrong, but obviously for a score like that, pretty much everything must have gone wrong. And then, after that last year, you go through the same nervous thing because, as I said, we finished one higher. So this year you had, the two bottom results had to go the right way. You didn't even have a chance up yourself. So, as luck had it, things went our way. I think we always had the belief that we'd be right again next week. If we got a chance, like we just completely missed the mark there. Everything sort of went amiss. But I think for me, remembering back, I still was confident we had a side that was capable to do things. We just needed the opportunity and needed to get it right.
Yeah, well, luckily for us, both the Cowboys and Knights were beaten by Manly and Melbourne, and we progressed through the semi-final against the Tigers, a game I was at, and I remember very, very fondly. It's where this jersey is kind of synonymous with that win. What are your memories of that game? Because that first half, the Tigers were all over us, and then it was kind of a game of two halves. You scored late in the first half, and then the second half, I think Feletti Mateo put on a masterclass to get us back into that game.
Yeah, I remember, just because I've seen clips, I remember scoring off Kevy Lockwood when Kevy jumped out a hooker. I remember sitting there and seeing quick play the ball, Kevy at hooker, and I thought, mate, he's going to go there. And he was in outstanding form that year. Like he was probably behind Billy Slater as up there with Billy and as the best fullback in the comp. Like he was outstanding. And I remember when he got the ball going, he's a chance to go through here, and then slip through, and he flicked me the ball and just got there and went all the way. I remember at the end, that was the one too. We went to Inu. Was it Inu?
Inu tried from that kick,
Inu scored from that kick, and then I think I think there was something on the short side, maybe 4 or 5 to go. I don't know if Benji or something tried to run it or something, or he come up with a play that went the wrong way. It wasn't how he wanted, and then from there, I think that might have even been in the lead up to when we got the Inu kick from memory. I think he might have went down a short side or went to kick or something happened, and then we got in field position to kick, and obviously you knew there, he was such a target under the high ball and got that over, and we got the chance to go. So it was a, I still talk to actually remember playing with Chris Heinington and that years later, and or running into Timmy Maltson, and they go, mate, I can't believe we lost that game. Like it was. So, it was a close one, and I know some of the boys from the Tigers still can't believe we beat them.
Mate, they've never recovered. They haven't played a semi-final game since, the poor old Tigers.
Yeah, right. Wow. That's interesting. Hey?
Timmy Maltson only needed to put a hand on Chris to stop that try as well.
Yeah, that's right, because he came down short, didn't he?
And that's right.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's right. Crazy.
Well, the next week, we faced Melbourne in Melbourne, a game that you touched on earlier in the grand final qualifier, in a game that is widely regarded as one of the finest in the club's history. You were right in the thick of the action. You scored a first half try, and then you iced the game with that sideline conversion to put us up by 8. What do you remember about the game itself, and then the feeling that you'd qualified for your first NRL grand final?
Yeah, I think we at the Warriors, we had a really good record. Like Melbourne were clearly the dominant side through all that period of time, but the Warriors always had a really good record against them. They probably had one of the better ones of any other side, I'd say. And I remember with Ivan, the whole game plan was just to stop Cameron Smith. So we had it worked out that basically, if we stop Cameron Smith, then that stopped Slater and Kronkle on the back of that, because if we can, control the ruck and do all that, and it worked out really well for us. I remember the try scoring that Lucky sent to me, because he used to do a bit of ball playing and dropping the middles off. And I think from memory I don't know if we got held up or something, maybe the tackle before, but I feel like there was a bit of a stop in play. And I remember saying to Lucky, like, go across, show the, dummy to the thing, and I'll just pop off your outside hip and just hit me. And then he went and did it, and then threw it. I remember the ball was awful. It was up over me, and I had to catch it up here. But we went straight through, and I just thought, I was sort of watching. For some reason, I just knew it was going to happen and was going to work, and went over, and then obviously at the end, obviously Shawnee setting up that brilliant try, turning everyone inside out and putting Louis over it. In the end, that was pretty special. And I actually remember, of course, obviously 2 years before I'd been at Melbourne, I remember talking to Bellyache in the sheds afterwards, and he was blowing up. He said, I've told him all week, watch Maloney hitting holes, watch Maloney hitting holes. And we got him. So, it was crazy, because I think in after that, basically our week of grand final, Melbourne basically gave us they had everything set up, their grand final week, assuming, or in preparation to go through the grand final. So I think basically we took a lot of their, where they were going to stay, doing all that for all the grand final, or just the logistical stuff, I think sort of passed on, because I think they were a little bit more prepared than the Warriors were. So it was, mate, it was a brilliant time, brilliant to be a part of. The buzz, I remember getting back to Auckland Airport after that game, and just the airport being chockers and people clapping you and cheering you. Like it was crazy. And I think from memory, that was also at the time of the Rugby Union World Cup.
Yeah.
So Auckland was going nuts, because I remember we flew, because all our games were away. So we had the Brisbane game, went to Brisbane and back, then we went to Sydney and back, then we went to Melbourne and back. And we kept getting, boys were looking at like videos of like the streets of Auckland going bonkers because the All Blacks had won and stuff like this. And we were like, oh, just get us home. This is bad. Like we're missing out on all this. And we go down go down by the water where they'd set up the big like platforms with all the screens, and everyone go down and get on the beers and watch the rugby. So it was a really cool time because the city was just pumping. Everyone was Warriors fans and everyone was behind you. So it was awesome.
Well, it was massive too because we made all 3 grades in the grand final that year. So we had
Yeah.
you guys, we had the 20s, and we had the reserve grade. Did all 3 teams come across together, and did you all stay together, or is it a separate entity for like it's the first grade kept separate from the 20s and so forth?
Yeah, I think. Oh, geez, I can't remember whether we all stayed together or whether we all. I think because we had to come across for the. I think we come across on maybe like Wednesday, for the breakfast and all that they did at that time. So I don't know that the other sides had to do that, so they might have come later. Yeah, so I can't remember exactly, but yeah, I know we went over for that, and then had the few days build up. So yeah, well, it was cool, but I think we only got, was it the 20s that won, and then both the others got, or did we all lose?
The reserve, the reserve grade lost. Michael Lett scored in the corner in the reserve grade side for Canterbury, and we lost that by 4 points.
Yeah.
And then we beat the Cowboys in the 20s. Kyle Felt missed a penalty shot to level that up right in front. And then you guys played Manly. Yeah, it was Manly. Manly were always in control, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that was that. Looking back at it now, I think you go into a game all confident, but then I think when you pull yourself away and look at objectively, you sort of go, look, Melbourne. I mean, Manly were clearly one of the better sides all year and just had it down patted. I think now looking back at it quite objectively, you sort of start realising that it's not an accident that they just put it together on the day a bit better than you after the build up and the season they've been. So it was just a bit of unfortunate. I still remember they scored that one try. I think Glenn Stewart just before half time grubbered about 20 metres out from his own line, and I was like, oh Jesus! And then they picked it up, ran down. Yeah, so they had some good plays. They had a really good side there, and they were just too good that day.
Well, we've spoken to a few guys from the 2002 team, the Warriors team, and they said that the whole grand final week was just a blur. So was that your experience of it? Was it just a blur for you, or did you get to soak a bit of it in?
Yeah, I think we soaked it in. I think it was. I think if I look back, I think it actually. I ended up playing obviously with the Roosters and the Cronulla, and probably especially after the Roosters, I think we probably did a few things wrong. Now looking back that week, I think it's just such a buzzer. I think the other 2 grand finals have been a party and been able to win. I think the key is to keep the week as normal as possible. There's such a buzz. I remember, it was so keen. We had an open training session, and then, after training, we were out. There would have been guys that spent maybe 2 hours out on the field afterwards signing autographs and doing that. But it's just not. That's not a normal week, and it's not. I just think we probably got too involved in how big it was and how big it would be if you sort of won. You lose focus of what it's actually going to take to get the game won, and that's the 80 minutes of football. So it's probably, as unfortunate it is to lose one there, it's probably something I was really really aware of going into future grand finals and future grand final weeks, of not focusing on enjoying it, because it is such an awesome time, and there's a lot of people that wish they were you and wish they were there, and they're not, but also not losing sight of the actual 80 minutes performance that is what it's going to take to win. I think just looking back, we we probably missed it a little bit there. And I think the week sort of became a bit of a circus. It was just so big and so that I think it just sort of drained you and just probably took a little bit of the focus off being, we've got a massive 80 minutes to finish off how we want to finish off.
Wow, that's that's pretty insightful, actually. That's probably one of the best answers I've ever heard from anyone talking about grand final week, because guys like us, we don't know. We get wrapped up in our team being in a grand final and that kind of stuff. But no, that was wow. I was fortunate enough to be at that grand final, and because we had all three grades and because we were playing Manly, there was definitely more Warriors supporters than Manly supporters. And we got to participate in a massive haka before the game. Do you guys remember that? Were you aware that was going on before the team ran out?
I do remember bits of it or talk of it going in because we were talking, I think even towards the end, they were talking about how back in the day, how the Warriors used to do, and the All Blacks used to do the blackout. So they'll get all the fans to wear black and all that. And as you said, because everyone hated Manly, I think it was about 90% anyone who was neutral. It was basically Manly versus any NRL fan. So it was clearly ours. And I remember bits of it. I think a lot of it was going on while we were in the sheds. But I do remember even in lead up at different games and in different corners and that, all the guys doing the big huckers and that, or when we ran out, they'd still be in the corner all doing it. It was for us, it was such a cool thing, not being New Zealand or Māori or anything like that, but having spent time there, like when you go to boys' birthday parties and stuff like that, how it's such a culture thing and a show of respect and that they do it. It was, we used to love it. And every time, your hairs on the back of your neck start standing up. And I think it's a really cool culture thing. I think it's one thing New Zealand do really well is embrace that Māori culture. And, even when you used to go to school promos, and assembly and all the kids that start doing huckers and that, like, I think, that's actually something that, we really enjoyed.
Well, just going back to the game again itself, I mean, you touched on Manly getting off to a hot start, and they were up 18-2. But then we scored a couple of tries in the midway through the second half, one through Manu and Elijah Taylor to get it back to 18-10. Were you guys confident at that point that you could get back into it? And is there anything else that stands out about the game itself?
Yeah, I think I remember. Probably a bad way. I think I remember their tries. I think they're the ones that stick with me, and I think they're the things that hurt you the most. It's easy to remember the good. I remember it going in that flow, and I remember it coming back and going, here we go. And obviously you're getting a bit of momentum. Here we go. We might pull it back again. But I remember, I think the first try was the inside ball to Brett Stewart, and we just didn't tie in there. I remember Glenn Stewart kicking on his own 20 just before half time. I think after that break, Cherry Evans scored. There's just some things there that I remember that I'm just like, geez, if we just tidied that up. And I think that's the hardest thing about grand final losses is you've just always got that what if that just sit there, like, what if we just didn't miss that? What if we did that? But that's, unfortunately, that's the way it goes. You can't have those what ifs on the day to get the right result.
It was widely reported that Ivan Cleary was moving on at the end of that 2011 season. How did you find him as a coach personally?
Yeah, I really got on well with Ivan. Obviously, managed to link up with him again at Penrith just before I came over to here, but he was really good. Enjoyed my time with him. I think he probably changed. I went from learning so much under Craig Bellamy in quite a regimented, structured style of football. whereas Warriors are probably a bit more loose, a bit more ad lib, and probably that probably suited me. Like it's probably why I had success there and could do that. So I think he understood the principle, and as I said, we had our game right. We played to our strengths of what our side was and what we had there. So yeah, I think it was no coincidence that we had some good years and success in the 2 years that he was there with us, and I thought he was really good. I thought it was a shame to lose him.
Yeah, following the success of 2011, there were really high expectations for the club on the verge of something big. But our 2012 season, we finished 14th with an 8-16 record. So Ivan had moved on, and you had announced that you'd signed with the Roosters for 2013, I think before the season had already started. So was this because you were homesick and you wanted to come home?
Yeah, well, just as I said, 2011, as I said earlier, we actually thought we were going to be staying on and extending. I think we started throughout that 2011 season, we started contract talks about, because my next year was an option in the club's favour. So I think we were talking about brushing the option and upgrading and extending originally and staying there. But then, and the club were like, okay, we just need to sort out. We had a few young guys and that, so they needed to sort out a few of those guys so they knew what they had money wise and that before it all happened. And then I think it started getting late into that run, and we were sort of going all right in the semis. And I just sort of said to him, I said, look, I don't want to talk about anything now. I want to concentrate on the footy and do that. And then by the time that season finished and all this interest, we probably had really good financial offers back home that probably the Warriors would have struggled to be able to match anyway. And then, as I said, we spent 3 years. We just had our second daughter, Layla, was born over in New Zealand, so she's still on a Kiwi passport. She's our little Kiwi, and I think by then, when we looked at it, it was it just felt better and a bit easier to just come home.
Yeah. In 2012, Ricky Stewart had apparently earmarked you for State of Origin. How close did you get to being selected that year? Or were you even aware that you were in Ricky's plans?
He called me at some point and said, look, I like the way you're going really good. I think I went over for an emerging blues side camp, and then I think it was reported that someday a few of us, we all ended up out on the drink after he told us not to get on the drink. And then it got reported, I think I read somewhere that basically meant I wasn't going to play that year now because he was dirty that we'd all got on the drink. So that may have affected it that way. But unfortunately. But I think looking back anyway, the way our 2012 season went, I don't think it was probably something that was going to happen anyway. So
Yeah. Well, speaking of the 2012 season and how it ended with 8 consecutive losses, and it was a real tough watch for all us fans. And a disappointing end to what was such an extremely successful stint at the club for yourself. So how will you remember your time at the Warriors?
Yeah, I remember it fondly. Obviously, I think in general, I'd look at it and say it was successful somewhat. 2012 definitely very disappointing. But I look back and I'd like to think that I added something to me time, and that people thought that it was good to have me there. I think we just, as I said, I think 2012 we had Brian McLennan came in, and I got on really well with Brian. I think he's a terrific guy, but I just think, Coach, I think we changed, as I said, in 2011, that I think we really worked out our style of football, and what we do, and I think we just went right away from it. I know Brian had come back from Super League, from coaching over there, and I think it's a different style of football. And there are just some things I think we missed the mark and were a bit off there, and we just changed too much from a successful 2011 to basically completely changing our game and style of play and things like that. So I think there was just some things there that were unfortunate and disappointing. And I think the thing that sits the worst with me, I think, was I remember late at the back, that was when Michael Luck retired, and I think that's the thing that disappointed me most. A guy like Lucky, who I had a tremendous amount of respect for, and that's the terms that he went out on. I think of everything, that's probably the thing that hurt me the most.
Yeah. Sorry, mate. I keep looking at. I've got two screens running, so I've got the Facebook Live happening on this side, and I've got all these questions coming up. I'm just reading I'll get to those very, very soon. Don't think that I'm listening to what you're saying. Your 3-year stint at the Roosters, you won a premiership in 2013 and made it to the grand final qualifier in 2014 and 2015. What was it like playing in such a world-class team with so many great players? And what was Sonny Bill like to play with?
Yeah, look, Roosters were obviously a very good side. I think a big change in our success was when Trent Robinson went there, and obviously even beyond those years, I think he's sort of shown that he was a big reason for it with their continued success. Because the year 2012 Roosters, I don't even think they played semi-finals. I don't think they were going that well at all. And then to turn it around, obviously we had some pretty handy signings. We got Michael Jennings along with me. Sonny obviously came. So we had some pretty handy players come to what was, I suppose, inevitably a pretty handy roster already that was just underperforming. So look, Sonny Bill was really good. I think he just, especially for any of the young Islander kids and that, I think just the way he goes about what he does and his professionalism and the way he, just applies himself to what he does, I think, it's second to none in professionalism. Probably the complete opposite to me, I'd say. So it's good, and it's what you see him go past. He just doesn't have an off season, where a lot of footballers go from, playing and then we can get unfit now, we can get on the drink and have fun. This is then Sonny just stays fit and does what he does. So very, very professional in what he does, very skillful, and obviously everyone sees what he does on the field and what he can bring. So pretty awesome.
Yeah, well, having been on the end of a losing scoreline in a grand final, can you describe the feelings of actually winning an NRL grand final?
Yeah, well, it's funny. I remember back at League Club after we won, and I was sitting with Sonny, funny enough, talking to him, and I said exactly when I was just talking about the what ifs and that after you lose one. I said, I said to him, I said, what it is? It's just content. You sort of sit back, and when you do lose them, you sort of go between. You finish up. You've had a good year. You get on the drink with the boys, and you start going, well, you know what? We had a good season. We went really good, but there's always that what if. And I think when you finally get it done, it's just such a feeling of content that, we've put all this hard work in and we did it. I think it's just that contentment and that happiness that there's no what ifs. It's just, we did it. That's what so many people strive to do. And it's such a challenge to do. And we did it, So I think that's probably the biggest thing that I sort of take out of it.
Yeah. So many great players of our game retire, never having played in a grand final, let alone win one. You've played in 3, won 2. Did you ever think when you were running around in New South Wales Cup back in 2008 that within 8 years, you would have won 2 premierships, represented your state and your country? Like, do you pinch yourself?
No, yeah, not at all. And I think it's something that people ask you a lot when they say, when you're young, did you ever think? And you don't really, but I think it just sort of, when you're sort of going through it, everything sort of slowly happens. And, you sort of go, oh, no, I wouldn't get to there. I wouldn't get to that. That doesn't really seem possible. And then you start doing one and you go, oh, it's not that much further. It's not that much further. But when you sort of sit back now and look at it and all the stuff, I'm extremely proud of what I've been able to achieve. Like, I don't think I was, the most outstanding player by any means. I think the one thing I did have that helped me well is I know that I know rugby league really well, and I know I've got a good footy brain, and I think I've managed to not necessarily be outstanding individually, but I feel like a strength of mine has been able to bring out the best in the players around me. So I think that's sort of something that's held me in good stead.
You finished your NRL career at the Panthers. So how did it feel playing alongside the young kid who used to be the Warriors ball boy in 2011?
Yeah, it was crazy because, as I said, obviously having Ivan so early, we always, every time we bump into him, and we'd always sort of say g'day and all that. And I remember saying with, because Nathan's little brother, Jet, I remember he was only tiny when we were over there, and I used to be his favourite player. So that was always good. I always used to laugh and say, that's sweet. I'll never get dropped because Ivan won't drop his son's favourite player. So, and then all these years later, I end up playing with, obviously a young Nathan. I've got kids of my own, and my third eldest, Ethan, he just loved Nathan. He just adored Nathan. So I said, it's so uncanny how life goes, and you swing by, and then it's my kids that are looking up and loving Nathan. So it was something that was really cool, obviously, to have that different dynamic to link up with Ivan there and work with Nathan, and having I sort of watched him come through. And then I heard when he was at Penrith, I heard him saying, I'd catch up with Ivan. He said, yeah, Nathan's going all right. He's coming through the Penrith junior system. And I heard sort of talk about him, and I think it was a cool way to finish, and especially playing Origin and stuff like that alongside him. I think that was awesome.
Is speaking of Origin, is Origin, like, you played 14 Origin games, 7 wins, 7 losses. Is Origin the toughest footy you ever played, as they say that it is? Did you find it is.
It is a game. I think the thing is, it's always close regardless. I think even you look at last year's series where, on paper the Blues should have blown Queensland apart, and probably if they played a bit smarter than that would have. But I just think it is. It's that fierce rivalry that's been in you since you were kids. It was just brought in. There was this such fierce rivalry that you remember when you're a little kid and watching, and you'd go to school the next day, and if New South Wales had been beaten and your mates were Queensland supporters, you'd be filthy. And it was just this. It's just been bred into you for such a long time. How important it is, and it is. People sort of ask, is it faster and that, and it's a weird thing to say because it's not necessarily. It is faster, but not because you can get away with more in the tackles in terms of slowing them down and that. But I think there's just so much passion and rivalry in it that everyone carries with a bit more in them, and everyone hits with a bit more in them, and you don't have stoppages because there's penalties. So it just goes end to end. So I think that's where it is, where it all sort of differs. But it's definitely one of the best footy you can play because it's a grind and it's a challenge. And
just on that, when you're talking about the speed and what have you been watching much of the NRL in the past couple of weeks since it started? And
no,
if so,
sure.
you haven't.
No,
you haven't. Oh,
I reckon since I've been over here now, I reckon last year I watched maybe three games when I heard the Panthers were going well, and I just thought I actually love. I'm actually now that I'm over here recently with the time difference, it's sort of hard because the games are like say mid mornings or whatever over here, and I at the moment I think mentally I'm just so happy to move on from that now and just enjoy. I love being over here that you're out of the spotlight, that you're just a normal person, because rugby league's a minority sport over here. It's not so big, and I love all that stuff about it. So, I've still got aspirations. I think after footy, I'd love to come back and get into coaching in some sort of role and stay in the game and that. But I think in my time over here, I'll probably just try and stay away from it a little bit and enjoy a bit of time out of it.
Yeah, well, just quickly back to rep footy. So you're lucky enough to play 4 tests for Australia. So what was it like to reach the pinnacle and represent your country?
Yeah, that was strange. That was obviously after our 2016 win with the Sharks. I got picked in the Four Nations, and that was something I probably never ever expected to happen. I was probably, I was still been playing Origin and that for a number of years, but it was probably something that I just thought I'd never do, and I was happy with that. I wasn't, it wasn't something like I really had this unbelievable, burning desire to play for Australia, or that I still had to do. I didn't really feel like that, but it was certainly when the opportunity came, it was certainly unreal to be a part of it, and to sort of play with that quality of players and in competitions where we won the Four Nations and won the World Cup and things like that. Yeah, that was awesome, and the trips were fun. We had an absolute ball. My first trip over here for the Four Nations, we had sort of seven weeks over around England and all that, and mate, we had plenty of fun. So that was good.
You're about to start your second season at Le Catalan. Kicks off this weekend. How do you find the speed and the intensity of the game in the Super League compared to the NRL? Is it much different?
Yeah, I think over here there's a drop off throughout the season. There's 12 sides, but the level, I think in NRL, it doesn't matter who you play on the day. If you're off a little bit, you can get pipped. Whereas I think there's some top sides that are tough games and play really footy, but then there's also some lower, more blowout scores, and that aren't as close. So I think that's probably the difference. Just a little bit the week to week grind and consistency. That's probably the level in some of the lower sides just drops away a little bit more than it does in the NRL.
All right, Jimmy, I'm going to ask you some quick fire questions that we ask all our guests, just while Hammer checks out some of the questions that we've received on Facebook Live. So who was the most influential player you ever played with?
Played with? For me, probably Cameron Smith.
Okay, nice one. Who was the most skillful player you ever played with?
Oh, skillful. Fletty Mateo would have to be up there.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Silky skills for a big man. The most skillful player you played against?
Skillful that I played against. Yeah, maybe like a. Maybe like a Benji Marshall or something.
Oh yeah,
fair enough. Toughest teammate you ever had?
I'll stick with the Warriors. I'll say Simon Mannering and Michael Luck.
Thank you.
Yes, nice answer.
Two greats.
There they are.
Yeah, absolutely they are. So who was the toughest opponent?
Probably the bloke I used to hate marking up against the most was Dave Taylor.
Oh,
he was big and very hard to handle. He was sort of quite skillful for a big bloke and fast, and I couldn't even get me arms around his legs to tackling him. I couldn't even reach him. They were that big, so he was tough.
Here's a good one for you. The best sledger, either a teammate or opponent.
Oh, the best sledger. I tell you what, everyone used to say Michael Innes, but I never heard much of. Every time I played him, I never really heard that much about him. I think he was in the middle and that. I used to have a couple of. I tell you, actually, Will Chambers. Will Chambers is very good.
Yeah, I can believe that.
Yeah.
on the same vein, biggest pest you played with, against, anything?
Andrew Fafita.
Incidentally, we asked Dan Dingo Floyd the same question, and he said you.
I just used to keep Dan on his toes. That's all.
Yeah, of course. Okay, last one of the rapid fire questions. Your funniest teammate.
Funniest teammate. I used to get a lot of laughs out of Kevin Locke. He was just very more laughing at him a lot of the time, but he was just he could tell a lie. He could tell a lie like the best of them. He was very funny, even not meaning to be. But I used to have a lot of fun with Kevin. He used to be good value.
Yeah, awesome. All right, I'm going to read out some of these questions and comments. Jay Harris asks, which club on the Peninsula Central Coast do you still consider your junior club?
Yeah, I just St Edwards and played St Edwards and Arimba. So I probably a bit of both. St Edwards never had a senior side, so went out to Arimba after that. So both those two, I probably consider them both my junior club.
Paul Smith has said he's loving us in our retro jerseys, mate. Just thought I'd put that out there. I told you this was going to come up before we went live, Jimmy. I told you it was going to come up, mate. Whenever I need a really good laugh, I relive your story about your barbecuing alone on the Footy Show's Perfect Partners segment a number of years ago.
I'm glad I can give people a laugh.
It was one of the funniest things. Christian asks, who was your favourite teammate to play with? We've said that one, haven't we? Nick McKercher asks, in a rugby-dominant New Zealand, country such as New Zealand, what is the general public's week in, week out level of interest and support for rugby league and the Warriors in any given season?
Yeah, I think it's quite big. I think it definitely grew. I think like anything, the more successful you were and the stronger you were going, the more it grew. But I think there was always, like we had every week at Mount Smart, sometimes you'd have some torrential conditions and we had a rock solid 10,000 people there, rain, hail and shine, week in, week out. I think there's definitely plenty of interest in rugby league over there. And I think it's very important for the NRL and the game that New Zealand be strong. I'd love to see the Warriors as one of the really strong outfits for a period of time because it'd just grow even more.
So would we. What's your memory of RTS or your memories of RTS or thoughts on RTS?
Yeah, awesome. I remember he was just coming through the Roosters when I first got there. And I didn't know much about him, and we were running. My first memory, I remember we were running opposed against each other. So he was defending. He come out the back of a second man shape, and I was sort of had him checked off, and I was like, "Yep, got him." And then he just went bang left foot, moved about 2 meters to the side, and went straight past me. And I went, "Oh wow, didn't have him at all." And that was probably the first time I realised, holy, this kid goes all right. So
you were the first of many.
Yes.
Exactly.
Still doing it. How did it feel to finally deliver a premiership to a fan base who had waited so long in the Sharks?
Yeah, unreal. I think it probably something that never probably only really sunk in and hit me probably after the game when I seen Andrew Eddinghausen in tears with Cal and stuff like that. Probably the first time after that I actually sort of sit back and realise, wow, this is really special. You know, it means a lot to a lot of people, and seeing the reaction of Cronulla fans, and started crowd surfing through Northies, and then knew it was a great time.
Yeah. And last question: what's bigger, hang on, 2 questions. What's bigger, state of origin or Test match footy, in your opinion?
I think it's obviously a bigger honour playing a Test, playing for your country. But I'd always said to people, I said, if someone had said to me before my career, you can only play one match, a state of origin or a Test match, I'd pick state of origin every day of the week.
Okay, awesome. And now we'll say something in French. Can you speak French? Have you learnt any French?
Je parle un peu français. I speak a little bit of French. It's getting better. It's still very hard, but the kids do. My kids, they go to a little French school in the village we're in, and it's like not an international school. It's just French. So it's,
wow.
They don't speak any English there and that. So the kids pick it up so quick, and now our kids are translators for us. Basically, if we don't understand something, we call the kids over and they help translate for us. It's really cool.
What's your contract length over there? Is this your last season at Le Catalans, or you got another season?
I've got this year, and then the club's got an option for next year. So we'll see how this year goes. See how the body's feeling. Not getting any younger. I turned 35 this year, so we'll see how we're going halfway through and see what we want to do.
What's wrong with you, mate? Cam Smith played till he was 37, 38, something like that.
Yeah. I wish I was Cam Smith.
Who do you play this week in the season opener for Le Catalan?
Got Hull KR. So we fly over. I think we play them at like Leeds. So at the moment we've got to fly in and out on the same day. So we fly over, play, and fly straight back. So
no crowds too, isn't it?
Yeah, no crowds. We forget what it's like to play in front of crowds over here. It's been empty stadiums for far too long.
Well, mate, we went through that last year, only for a short period of time, but it kind of, as fans, it kind of made you not take for granted the fact that you could go and watch your team play. I last season I went and watched the Warriors in their first game at Newcastle, and then COVID hit and they played Canberra in a stadium with no crowds. And then when the season started, as soon as they were able to have crowds again, I made sure I went to every game that I possibly could. I didn't want to take for granted the fact that, because I think we all did for a while there, just take for granted, you can go to any game you want. But when it's taken away from you, it's something you miss greatly as a fan.
Yeah, 100%. I think the players are the same way. You don't realise how much you appreciate the fans there until they're not there. I think it's exactly the same on the other side. Yeah,
because I remember last year watching the Super League Grand Final, and after watching our Grand Final, and then you watch the Super League Grand Final with no crowds, it was just it was a weird situation. It was just really weird.
Yeah, well, they played the Challenge Cup at Wembley in front of no fans. Like imagine playing in ANZ Stadium, 100,000 stadium, and not a soul there. Like awful.
Yeah, ridiculous. Anyway, mate, we want to thank you for your time. In all the Warriors fan forums, you're still one of the most favourite players that we've ever had play for our club. You're fondly remembered by all Warriors supporters. And like I said before, you may have played for, the Roosters, the Sharks, and the Panthers, but to us, you're always and forever will be Warrior number 156.
Thanks very much, guys. Really enjoyed the chat and enjoyed the Warriors my time there. So awesome.
Really appreciate your time, Jimmy. Thanks very much for joining us tonight.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate it.
Guys, have a good one, eh?
You too.
You too, mate.
Cheers.
Oh, mate, what a character.
Absolutely. We always knew it would be an entertaining chat, didn't we?
Yeah. And, again, it's, I was saying, I've said to you off camera before that the chat with Justin Murphy was probably one of the most personable chats we've had with someone. He was really personable and really good to talk to, but Jimmy Maloney just upped that. He's such a character, so funny to talk to. His stories are so great. Yeah, but again, such a great footy head on his shoulders as well.
But you can't argue with his record. Everywhere he went, he was successful. He played grand finals with 3 out of the 4 teams he played for in NRL, took us to a grand final. And for
Correct.
that very reason, he'll always be etched in Warriors history. And we're very grateful for his contribution to our club.
Absolutely, we are. Absolutely, we are. We want to thank everyone for joining us tonight for this special Roo Hammer edition. We will be back tomorrow night with our standard Wednesday night show, 7:30 Queensland time. Yeah, 8:30 New South Wales time, 10:30 New Zealand time to discuss round 2, talk about our set of 6 for this week, and preview the game against Canberra. So
make sure you guys all tune in again tomorrow night. No, it's a bit weird to back up again, but yeah, we're just very lucky to have this chat with Jimmy Maloney, and
it's one of those things for us. We'll work around the time that's best suits these guys to come onto the show, and if it means a special broadcast, that's what we'll do. So so thank you once again, everyone, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow night.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Catch you tomorrow. Cheers.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks.